What's up, y'all? You know what time it is? It's about to be that time.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Who killed Cobra?
Savage.
And we're back. One Piece 1084 is out, and we have been waiting 5 years exactly for essentially this. The continuation of the Reverie. We had to live through all of Wano, some of Egghead. We are here now, and I'll tell you, I love our pirate crew, but nothing gets me more excited than 5 old men in a room. And then throw in another guy, we got 6 old men, and then maybe one really old guy, or is it one really old woman? These are the things we've got to get into today. All right, but first, like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe. Here we go. So Cobra comes in and he gives us the lowdown of a lot of stuff that we've already been told, things that we already knew. Oda's been doing that a lot lately. He wants to refresh everybody. But, you know, obviously we know. 20 kings came together 800 years ago, created the world government. They put surrogates in place to take care of their own land. We saw this in Dressrosa, King Riku Doldo III, right? Member of the Riku family. They had been taking care of Dressrosa in the stead of the Don Quixote family. Doflamingo came in and said, hey, I want my birthright back, and kicked Riku out. Now, that's the only instance that we've seen of something like that outside of Alabasta. 800 years ago, Nefertari Lily defected from the world government. So, whatever happened during that time, which clearly, in my mind, was a massive genocide, which Lily probably didn't want to have anything to do with, or after seeing the effect of everything, the real plan of potentially Emu, right? If Emu is not Lily, which is something we need to get into, there is a very strong possibility that was the cause. That's what made her leave. Was she allowed to leave, right? Or do mob rules apply? It's like, you can't get out. If you've been following the streams or the recent Theory for Theories, you know that I've had a big poneglyph theory Daxake and I had kind of put together, and I think that this particular chapter feeds into that a lot. And I've been wanting to do a video on it, but I've been expecting more information to come out that might build on that, and this is exactly the information that I wanted to even go deeper. But I'm going to wait until 1085 to get into that. Needless to say, I want to talk about Nefertari Lily and what her position in this story really means. Taking into account that most people believe that Emu has been alive for 800 years, what is the connection and correlation between Emu and Lily? Is Emu actually a very distant Nefertari, or was there a situation where the two were lovers, perhaps scorned lovers? Is it a Mark Antony and Cleopatra situation, but only one of them died instead of both of them, if you're familiar with that story? Considering that this is One Piece, the most likely answer is that Emu was extremely infatuated with someone that he couldn't have. Unrequited love. He wanted Nefertari Lily, he couldn't have her, and he burnt the world down in retaliation. This is why she defects from the world government to separate herself from Emu. I see it as a situation where if I can't have you, no one can have you. So Emu could have been responsible for the death of Nefertari Lily. But in Vivi fashion, she would have put her country before everything else, and she would have offered herself up as a sacrifice for Emu to not attack Alabasta for defecting. Because he loved her, he would oblige this. And then that clears up the logic flaw of why a nation was able to defect, which may not be a logic flaw, but to me it kind of is. Because basically it doesn't make sense to me that Lily could have gotten away with leaving the world government alive. You know, I mean, especially considering like Cobra's coming in here and knows who Emu is now, and he, you know, he's gonna catch the bullet. right? Or whatever. He's dead. R.I.P. Cobra. But we're on break, so he gets to live for another 2 weeks. But Black Bar's still dead. Anyway, if there was a situation where Emu and Lily were an item, and that they were coming into a situation and maybe they had good intentions at first, but then Emu sort of like gets tainted and drawn to the dark side and all of this, and then someone in the stream brought up like an Anakin and Padme situation, and I don't think that that's too far off from a possibility. In chapter 908, Emu ascends the steps in the same way that he does here in 1084. The Gorosei ask him which light does he want to erase from the world. He is carrying a picture of Vivi, and instead of all of the theories that Emu wants to kill Vivi, now that we've seen what Lily looks like, if we go down this rabbit hole of this theory, it's very likely that Emu is actually infatuated with Vivi now, and there could be a comedic angle that Oda wants to display here, where Emu actually wants Vivi to be queen of the world. This is his second chance to try again. It didn't work out with Lily, maybe it'll work out with Vivi, right? The idea that they could be Nefertari Lily is very engaging and interesting to me, because taking how good Cobra is, how good Vivi is, to have someone from the Nefertari clan be so evil, right, would be awesome. Now, there are some interesting correlations that can be made for the case of Emu actually being Lily. Most of us are aware that Emu spelled backwards is Umi, which means water in Japanese. Water lilies are a very popular type of lilies. Not only that, in Buddhist culture and Hindu culture, they are also a symbol of resurrection, because these flowers close up at night and reopen in the morning, similar to a spiritual rebirth. This could be indicative of Lily not necessarily maybe even being in control of herself, or that she was possessed by something. Now, water lilies also only grow in fresh water, which is the only type of water that doesn't affect a devil fruit user because it has no connection to the sea. And on top of that, Vivi has been in several cover page spreads and requests where Oda has drawn lilies or water lilies or lily pads in the background. Another fun connection to lilies in this chapter is in the color spread, Vivi has a shirt that says tiger on it. Tiger lilies are native to Japan and represent confidence, a lack of arrogance and vanity, and have often been associated with nobility. They are symbolic of the virtues of mercy and compassion, which that's just Vivi in a nutshell. Now, chances are not the case. It's like initially I was like, oh wait, is Emu Lily? And then as I was reading, the chapter, as it kept going, there were certain things that were diluting that. This note that was passed down implies that Lily wasn't necessarily evil, and that she wanted her descendants to know something. So that's why she passed this note or this poneglyph. We talked during the stream about a possible connection to Amazon Lily. The name is there, an island of women. There are two options here, maybe more, but we'll talk about two at first. First, Lily doesn't go back to Alabasta, which we know is confirmed by Cobra. Instead, goes to Amazon Lily, and because she was scorned by Emu and maybe, resents all men, creates this island of women. And it would be interesting if Boa Hancock is actually a descendant of the Nefertari clan as well by way of Lily. Don't necessarily believe that one as much, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. What I could see more is that whoever started Amazon Lily, the first empress of Amazon Lily, was so enamored and inspired by Lily. I could see it being like Lily's confidant, Lily's best friend was the first empress of Amazon Lily. And as in an ode to her, went to that island and then named it that after her. The Amazon Lily and Alabasta connections run very deep. You have Nefertari Cobra, Boa Hancock, the outside of Amazon Lily, a bunch of snakes All of the Kuja tribe members are also named after flowers, just like Lily, and we are taught about a love sickness in Amazon Lily in the arc. What if Emu destroyed the world because he had love sickness for Lily? If Lily was actually instrumental or took a part in really forming the world government, which would have meant the destruction of the ancient kingdom, and then she realized, maybe too late, that she was on the wrong side of everything, then that opens, the drama and the ability for someone like Vivi to come in when she's with the crew, right? And unite the world where her great ancestor was responsible in its downfall, its dismantling. And that's part of the interesting thing when you consider that Vivi is with Big News Morgans right now, someone who can disseminate information to the world. If Vivi is to learn about true history, if she's to learn about things from the poneglyphs, if she continues to have some sort of a connection or a communication with Morgans, maybe we don't necessarily need Vegapunk to create the internet, because Vivi can probably just have Morgans send the news out, and then she will be able to unite the world through knowledge using Morgans, which I think is a pretty interesting avenue to go. All of this really opens up the door to a very cathartic team-up between Vivi and Robin. Robin will uncover the history, but Vivi will be the one to get it out to the world, essentially carrying out Cobra's will. Vivi inherits Cobra's will of uncovering all of this. Beginning of chapter 218, the epilogue to Alabasta, is something that is very important. I have constantly been calling back to this anytime that we've been talking about Cobra, in particular because this is the moment that ignited the flame that is driving him in this particular moment. So Cobra is on this mission, and we don't necessarily know what his end game here is, because if his end game is basically, haha, I figured something out, that's stupid. Because they're just gonna kill you, dude. But if his end game is, haha, I figured something out and put a plan in place to end all of you, then that's some Batman stuff right there. I love that kind of stuff. I'm hoping that's the case. Now, the reason why I mentioned 218 is that's the scene where Cobra and Robin are talking right after the defeat of Crocodile. So this is told to us after Robin has joined and why she thinks that she needs to be on the crew, because Luffy saved her, right? Now, the conversation that Cobra and Robin have is basically, well, it's very telling, right? Because Cobra is like, why did you lie to Crocodile? Implying that he knew the entire time what was on that poneglyph, that it was not history, that it was actually the location of the weapon. Now, we talked about this when Sukiyaki revealed himself, and, we learned about Pluton being in Wano, and then it all kind of culminated back to 218. But the real important thing here is the following moment, when Cobra continues to needle Robin for more information. He's like, hey, what are you talking about? Like, if you string all of these together, it's going to tell you something about the Void history? Paraphrasing, but I mean, that's basically what he was getting into, and he kept pestering Robin for more information until a rock hit him in the head and knocked him out. But that started this journey over the next 2 years, learning, studying the history of the Nefertari family, and understood that there was this piece of paper, this note that was given to him, that is something that he would have already known during Alabasta, right? But he didn't have the wherewithal or the drive to look any further into what Nefertari, Lily, or Lily was trying to exclaim in that letter. Is it even a letter? Is the letter actually the poneglyph? Because he already knew it was on the poneglyph, right? He's saying that it's something that was passed down generation to generation, and the thing that was passed down generation to generation was the poneglyph. But needless to say, it had something to do with the D clan, right? Which also ties into everything from that particular saga. We learned about the D clan during the Alabasta saga. The first person to really bring it up was Kureha during Drum. She's just like, oh, Gold Roger, is that what they're calling him these days? Meanwhile, dude's been dead for 20 years, right? Where have you been? Anyway, she says it. Then Robin, is when she saves Luffy and Alabasta. What is it with you people with the initial D, right? So Oda was already setting these seeds in Alabasta. Remember, he only wanted the series to last 5 years. So I think everything that we need to know, or, foreshadowing wise, as far as like what the poneglyphs are and where Oda wanted to go with the story, is in the, in between the lines of Alabasta. And that's why we're so heavily focused right now on characters from back then. Sai and Leo are responsible for the attempted assassination of Charlos. Love this. Wish it was Vivi, but this is cool. There are 2 ways that I could see this going. I like both of these. One, disregarding that Mjosgard said that he'll take responsibility for all of this. If there's a world where, because they're pirates, that doesn't necessarily mean anything to the government or the Marines, it's very cool if Sai and Leo are captured, arrested, and sent to Impel Down, which then feeds my Impel Down 2.0 theory. And with Marco on his way there, we can then get the Grand Fleet pulling up to save Sai and Leo. Then what we learned about at the end of Dressrosa is actually just the Grand Fleet doing the mass breakout in Impel Down. Doflamingo gets out, Bon Clay gets out, a bunch of the Doflamingo family members, Senor Pink, etc. That would be awesome. Now, we know that Vivi is supposed to disappear, though. So, second option is Sai and Leo, maybe they protect Vivi, they're on the blimp too. And this is the more likely answer of the bunch, and this actually gets us to Luffy, and this goes back to my original Vivi theory, that she was saved and protected by Sai and Leo. And Sai and Leo have a Viva card to Luffy, so the blimp, Morgans, Wapol, Vivi, Sai, Leo, could be heading to Egghead. Vivi reunites with the crew at Egghead. Grand Fleet comes to Egghead. That's a lot of fun too. I'm into both of those ideas. It's very likely that in one of the next chapters we get introduced by name to an actual Holy Knight, considering that this altercation has finally been revealed to us. In the previous chapter, we saw Vivi being tailed by Lucci. She was looking for Garp. Now, there's not a big logic jump that needs to be made here. She probably knows that Garp is Luffy's grandfather based on, the news and everything in Marineford. Luffy's a good man, maybe Garp is a good man as well. She probably doesn't know that he hates celestial dragons, but she's still going to bank on this because she wants to save Shirahoshi. She knows that Charlos is not going to stop. He's going to come back and go after Shirahoshi. I think in the next chapter, Vivi is going to find Garp and is going to beg him to get Shirahoshi and the Ryugu family out of here and take them home. He's going to acquiesce, even though she herself is technically a celestial dragon, but based on her prior relationship with Luffy, she's going to do that. Now, we know in 956, Cobra dies while he's already doing that. So before Cobra can die, Garp has to leave. So this is something that has to happen in the next chapter. We also need to see Morgans and Wapol, because they obviously play a big role in Vivi's escape, now that we've seen her with them. So, with that being said, I think that 1085 is going to be a really big Vivi chapter. We're going to get some Garp action, Morgans, Wapol, and we may not even get to the death of Cobra. And if we do, it'll be at the very end of the chapter. There's a lot of things that got to get cleaned up first. Speaking of cleaning things up, Oda cleaned something up in this chapter, but it was almost like it didn't even really need to be there. During Egghead 1062, we saw Bonney, and she's like, oh yeah, I saw Sabo at the Reverie. I'm not going to get into that now, right? And we all thought, oh man, was she there? Was she in the room? Was she there for Cobra's, assassination? Did she get pawed away by Kuma? There were all these different theories. Obviously, that wasn't the case with the pawing, but this chapter started off hot. Sabo hiding away from, different guards. We hear about the Forbidden Chamber and all of this. These guards are obviously coming from the same school of the guard that told Who's Who about the Sun God Nika, because they're just randomly talking in halls waiting to die. But anyway, Sabo and Bonney, they hide up in the rafters, and I thought that this was going to be the start of like this, buddy cop thing with Sabo and Bonney. But then 2 panels later, he's just like, yeah, Egghead's that way. I'm going this way later. And it's like, why was this necessary? And that's just one of those situations where I'm just like, this is the one part of the story that I don't think Oda actually thought through the whole way. You have Bonney there. She gets there. She wants to save Kuma. The second she sees Sabo, she's just like, all right, guys, I'll leave it to you. Bye. I don't know. I mean, it's cool to see her, but, you know, I want things to mean more. Whatever is going to happen in the next couple of chapters, you know, assuming that Oda doesn't just call it a day since this is a volume ender and go back to Egghead, this has to be one of the biggest twists in the story. And it's hard for me to wrap my head around and believe that this possibly could be, even though Oda's been dangling the carrot for so long, because none of the, like, outside of Vivi, like, none of the Straw Hats are here to understand this information. And unless Vivi is present for whatever this twist is, and then we do get the scenario where she arrives on the blimp to Egghead to be able to tell all of this information to our crew from her perspective in the way that Sabo is doing to Dragon and Ivankov, then I don't know why we would get this here, you know? And then some things may get held specifically for that particular reason that I just mentioned, of Vivi being the one to tell it, because it means more coming from her to our main characters. Cobra giving us a lore dump and all of this in front of the Gorosei, what does that actually matter to anybody outside of, like, the really, like, rabid fans? Somebody who's just a casual picking up Shonen Jump is probably reading this chapter like, oh, where is Luffy? And, I mean, we're eating, most of us, you know, because we love this lore piece, and a lot of people do too, but I mean, there are definitely people that are like, hey, let's get back to Egghead. I'm not one of those people. I want 1085 Vivi Piece. And that's going to wrap things up, guys. This was a wonderful chapter. We are on break, so we'll do a theory for theory. This Tuesday, we're going to continue Chainsaw Month, right? We're watching Chainsaw Man. We're going to watch episodes 4, 5, and 6 Tuesday, 5 p.m. PST, 8 p.m. EST. We'll have a theory for theory next Sunday. We'll be back the following Sunday for 1085. Shout out to all of our members, new and old. Our new and or returning members are Anonymous, Mark Creasy, Ronnie Williams, Emmanuel Blue, and Alejandro Salas. Appreciate you guys. Everyone that supports the channel, what a time to be a One Piece fan. This is amazing. So I'll catch you guys next time. Like, comment, subscribe if you are feeling the vibe. Later.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.